Which country did not live up to your expectations? Andorra. I went there in 2013 with no expectations and I was still disappointed. It just felt like Monaco from Wish.com, https://wish.com. I found the few locals I did meet to be very standoffish and rude. The food was fucking terrible and extremely overpriced. Not at all what I expected from a country sandwiched between Spain and France. My experience could be because I only visited Andorra la Vella and not the rest of the place. May go back again to confirm. New Caledonia was pretty mid. Was expecting a tropical paradise and most of Naumea was extremely underwhelming. Did a tour and we have nicer, cleaner beaches in Oz. I feel like every bad experience I've had traveling was because of my poor planning. For example, I've had an amazing experience in Bali when someone else planned the whole trip. But then my experience in Thailand sucked because I made some planning mistakes. There were parts of Thailand that I liked and other parts horrified me. What horrified me the most was seeing how freely and carelessly all the tourists just used the place like a rave or an outhouse. I went down thinking that I'd love all the parties and partake in all the wild shit I'd heard about, but having my own private bungalow on a beach by myself was 10,000 better than any of the cities. If I went again I'd try Chiang Mai, but I was very unimpressed with BK, and when I stayed on Koh Samui I preferred to be in the rural areas over the cities. Egypt. I lived and worked there for a few months in a rural area outside of Cairo. The rural area was difficult because it was in the middle of a famine, so we were literally starving and rationing out like 500 calories a day, and the flies and mosquitoes were ruthless. I still chose to stay there during weekends instead of going to the city with everyone else because Cairo is such a nightmare. You can't go anywhere as a white woman without a male escort because you feel like walking down the streets is a gauntlet of men hissing at you. You have to be covered in loose clothing head to toe in like 100-degree weather. The pyramids are overcrowded with tourists and you're constantly getting hassled by people trying to scam you. The food is terrible. Every Westerner I know who has had a positive experience visiting Egypt is either male or is an older woman with government connections who is being insulated from the worst parts of it. UAE. When I talked to people about how I was going to Romania, I got a lot of opinions that it was going to be really backwater. Like, I've been to Poland and stuff prior, but I was told that Romania was pretty much an entire massive step behind that, and was basically like that one village bar I lived in. Granted, I was in Bucharest, but honestly Romania wasn't anywhere near as bad as that. Aside from the very favorable prices for most things, I could easily have believed I was in Italy or Spain. I then traveled through the length of Bulgaria at the end of that trip, and it very much met my expectations of Romania, Lămăi. Although granted, I was mostly going through rural areas and didn't go near Sofia, so that's unfair. Not a country, because I liked Vietnam, but Halong Bay was rubbish. A tourist trap. Impatient Vietnamese gifters literally herding confused foreigners off and on the tour boats. Ninh Bình was much nicer. Lol, basically every country is being named. Belgium but just Wallonia. Flanders is good but Wallonia just feels depressing. Cuba. The food was truly terrible, there wasn't much to do in Havana and the resort didn't have much going on either. It was beautiful though, and seeing the culture was fascinating. The ratio of miserable bastards in Denmark surprised me. Would it kill you to crack a smile once in a while? Not a country but Venice, Italy was really disappointing. It's seriously overrated. It smells like stagnant putrid water everywhere. Lots of homeless people in the streets near the touristy areas. Lots of people with mats on the street selling fake brand bags. The gondoliers are not nice and seem annoyed. My little sister was made fun of and scolded by a waiter for cutting the spaghettis. She's 8 years old, like leave the parenting to her parent, thank you, the audacity. India. I've traveled quite a bit and had an idea of what to expect, but being there and hearing the endless honking plus seeing how people drove, interacted in public, and reinforced sexism, classism, etc. was something else. My home country keeps disappointing me on a daily basis and really goes into overdrive during elections. Germany, get your shit together. Hungary. People were extremely angry and rude. Roads and buildings were in a terrible state, except in Budapest. From watching a lot of geography stuff lately about places, not a country, but a place that wants to be a country. Somaliland. It's in a great position, has a lot of coast and one of the busiest shipping lanes on Earth. Overall, peaceful and democratic for that region. Its downside, no one recognizes it as a country. Bali sucks. Don't go there. St. Lucia for me. I was very underwhelmed. It was not my jam at all. The vibe was off. Most sites are much less spectacular than they were made out to be, except the view of the pitons, while that from the pitons was meh. Belize overall. Maybe I ended up going to the wrong areas, but there's so much better stuff to see in that neck of the woods. I'd never go back. Unpopular opinion, Australia. Don't get me wrong, it's nice in places, but it was a massively hyped up country when I was in my 20s. I went after most people were somewhat over it, and I did not get the big deal. Again, not bad, but not as awesome as everyone made it out to be back then.